on nucleotides and nucleic acid directionality. So I'm going to start with nucleic acids. And nucleic acids are the polymer of nucleotides. Okay, so if I have a bunch of nucleotides together, it makes the polymer nucleic acids. Now, nucleic acids include DNA and RNA. Okay, DNA is a double-stranded molecule, and RNA is a single-stranded nucleic acid. What is important is that nucleic acids store information. So DNA stores information, and it transmits biological information, and RNA transmits information. Okay. Now, what is a nucleotide? A nucleotide is the monomer of a nucleic acid. So a nucleic acid is the polymer, and a nucleotide is the monomer, the single smallest building block of this biological macromolecule. Now, it has three main parts. It has a phosphate group, okay? And we can see that this phosphate group is already, it's polar because there are partial charges. We have the carbon sugar, and it's slightly different in RNA and DNA. And then finally, we have a nitrogenous base. And these three components make up a nucleotide, okay? And they are the building blocks of nucleic acids, namely DNA and RNA. The sugar and the phosphate strand form the backbone. Basically, all these structures are attached in like a backbone, okay? So if I have DNA like here, this would be the sugar and the phosphate, the sugar and the phosphate groups that are forming the backbone of DNA and RNA. Now, the order of the bases carry the information. So if I have a pattern ATGCA, okay, that is a pattern of the nitrogenous bases, and that stores a very, very specific message, okay, or information. Whereas if I just change one of these, or if I change the nitrogenous base to a different pattern, it is completely new information. Okay. So changing the order changes the information that is stored. If I look at this strand, okay, a nucleic acid strand, which is a polynucleotide, meaning poly means many nucleotides, okay, they have directions. So we have a 5' end and we have a 3' end. Okay, now for AP biology, you need to understand that the 5' end has a phosphate group and that the 3' end has a hydroxyl group. Okay. If we look at the 5' end, okay, the 5' end is associated with a phosphate group. And we can see that this phosphate group is polar. So it will be hydrophilic, it would interact with water, okay? And then when labeling strand, one end will be marked as the 5' end. The 3' end, okay, has a hydroxyl group, and this OH is a hydroxyl group. So during nucleic acid synthesis, okay, and this synthesis is done with a dehydration reaction, okay, the new nucleotides are added to the 3' end of the growing strand. So the 3' end is the growth end of a nucleic acid strand. Now, new nucleotides are added to the 3' end, and then it forms a covalent bond. And that's very important to remember. So we have the 5' end, okay, and this is the 3' end. Now, once these new nucleotides are introduced, it will attach at the 3' end, and that hydroxyl group would be removed to form water. It will be a dehydration synthesis reaction. And then this will create a new covalent bond. You need to be able to identify the different parts of a nucleotide and a nucleic acid. So if I look at a single nucleotide, which is the monomer of nucleic acids, and this is a polynucleotide, this is the polymer. Okay, the 5-carbon sugar group, this would be the 5-carbon sugar. So this is the sugar. Okay, the phosphate over here, phosphate, and it's the phosphate group because it contains a phosphate atom, and then we have the nitrogenous base, and there are 4 different types of DNA, and there are also 4 different types for RNA. And then the 5' end will always be at the phosphate group, and the 3' end would be at the hydroxyl group. So this is the 3 end, and where the next nucleotide will be added. So here, the next nucleotide will be added to this growing strand. If you enjoyed that video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and can join us on the Skool.com community page where you'll find AP Bio blueprints. And if you take a look inside, you will see that Unit 1 is completely free. See you all there.